and welcome, friends. This is Gina from McGuire, and I'm really thankful you stopped by. So today I have another Made in Minutes video. It's one of my shorter videos showing a really fun and easy to create interactive card. I call this a sliding window card, and I haven't made one of these in years, so I'm excited to share it. So with this card, you have a scene on the front, and when you pull the tab, the scene changes. In fact, here let's look at the completed card in action so you know where we're headed. I also used a special stamp set, and I'll talk about that very soon. But I thought it was best to first assemble a card out of colored cardstock. By using a bunch of different colors of cardstock for the different pieces, I think it's easier to see how it is assembled. So we're just going to create a generic card here. We're starting with a piece of cardstock that is 5.5 inches by 9 inches. And we're going to score this in two places. The first score line is a 1/2 inch from one of the ends. So I'll just score this to make a nice crease. Then I'm going to rotate the paper and score it 4.25 inches from the other end. So I'm going to score here at 4.25 inches. Those are the only two score lines we need on this card. Okay, so now I'm just going to fold along those score lines and use my bone folder to really reinforce the folds. What you end up with is really just a card that's 4.25 by 5.5, but it has that extra little 1/2 inch flap on one side. Okay, the next thing we need to do is create a place for our pull tab. I like to use a circle die for this, but you could use a circle punch or any shape that you want. And I just die cut half of the circle from one of the ends. So I'll go ahead and run this through my die cut machine, and it'll actually cut through both layers. So now we have that little tab on one end. Next, I'm going to create some pencil lines. Now, you don't actually have to draw these pencil lines in real life, but I thought it'd be helpful in the video. On the front panel that doesn't have the flap, I'm going to draw a pencil line 3/4 inch from each edge. I like to use a T-ruler for this because it's easy to make the line straight, but you could use whatever ruler you have. I'm just doing light pencil lines, but again, you could skip the pencil lines when you make your own. Okay, so after I have my pencil lines drawn 3/4 inch in from each edge, we'll end up with this rectangle in the center. We're going to cut along the two long lines, but not the two short lines. So we're going to cut along this line, and we're going to cut along this line. You can use a straight edge and a craft knife, or as I'm doing here, I'm using my trimmer. So I'm dropping the blade at the top line, and I'm going to drag it down to the bottom line. And I've got my blade lined up with the vertical pencil lines. So there I made that one cut there. And now we're going to do the same thing on the other pencil line. So I'll put it back in my trimmer, and I'll cut from the bottom line to the top line, making sure I'm lined up with our vertical pencil line. Okay, so this is really the hardest part of this technique, is getting those two lines in there. But here you can see how I have these two slits in the front of my card, and that will allow us to do this fun sliding window card. Next, you can erase those pencil lines. We're good to go. Now we have our card base ready to go. We just need to create the sliding feature. For this, you will need 4 pieces of cardstock. All of them are 4 inches wide. That top one, the biggest one, is 2.75 inches by 4 inches. The second one is 2 inches by 4 inches, and this is the piece that will actually slide up and down on the front of our card. Then last but not least, you need 2 pieces that are 1/2 inch by 4 inches. These will be completely hidden. Okay, so now let's do our assembly. First thing you're going to do is take the 2 inch by 4 inch piece and slide it inside of those slits. So you can see how the ends are tucked into the inside of the card, and the middle is showing on the front of the card. So once you have it slid through the 2 slits, you're going to center it up there at the bottom, and then you're going to take your 2 1/2 inch pieces, and you're going to put double-sided tape on these. I recommend strong double-sided tape here. It's definitely the easiest. I'm removing the release paper and have these ready to go. Now you take that biggest piece, the 2.75 by 4 inch piece, and you're going to put it on the inside of the card, and you're going to butt it up right against the edge of your other piece. So see how these are lined up, and then the edges touch there on the sides. So I'm going to line those up and touch them. I'm not putting any glue on that. Now what you're going to do is take your 2 strips that are up there on the top with adhesive on them, and put them on the side of these to connect that top blue piece with the bottom blue piece. Because again, the blue pieces don't have any adhesive. The only adhesive holding them together are these two strips. So I'll put this one down over here, and I try to do it up against the edge. Then I'll take the other and put it on the other edge. So basically these are braces that hold those two blue pieces together and will allow them to slide back and forth on the front of our card. Okay, so now what we'll do is close our card. We need to glue our card shut. Then you'll see the interactive feature. We'll take some strong double-sided tape and put it onto that 1/2-inch flap that we have on the back of our card. Remove the release paper, and now I'm going to close this, but watch, I tuck it in there on top of the blue pieces, but underneath the front of the card. Then I'll press that closed, and now we have our interactive card. So I can pull that tab and the piece slides. So you could decorate this and create whatever scene you want to on here. You can make the card vertical or horizontal. If you want to have a piece on the front of the card behind the sliding, you'll want to cut it to be 2 3/4 inches by 4 inches. I put adhesive on the back of this and I'm sliding it in there between the two slits. I could have done this before I assembled it, but this is just an optional piece if you want to kind of have like that focal point in the center. And now you can see how this will slide over that yellow piece, allowing the card scene to change. Again, you can make this pull up or pull to the side, totally up to you and whatever card design you're making. Okay, so now that I've shown you how to assemble one of these with different pieces of cardstock so you could really see how they go together, I wanted to create this card using a very special stamp set. So the stamp set that I used is this Big Thanks stamp set, and there are coordinating dies available. This was designed by Fawn in honor of Hero Art's 45th wedding anniversary. A bunch of companies are coming together and creating these sets for Hero Arts, and I think it's awesome because it shows the collaborative nature of our industry. So a big thanks to Fawn for doing this. Well, I use these images to create our fun sliding window card today. Once again, I'm starting out with a piece of cardstock that is 5.5 inches by 9 inches, and I'm scoring a 1/2 inch from one end and 4 1/4 inches from the other. This is Fawn Mermaid cardstock, which is one of my favorite colors. And now I'm going to use my bone folder to reinforce those two fold lines. Now again, I need to cut those two slits on the front of the card, but first I want to stamp this. So at this point I think is the best point to stamp the background. So I'm putting my piece into my MISTI stamping tool, and I'm using tape to mask off the back of the card so that I only stamp onto that front panel where the slits will go. I'm using the Hero Arts Bursting with Love stamp. This is a fun heart background. And I'm going to stamp this with Gina K Ocean Mist ink. After I've stamped that, I can remove that piece of tape, and now we have the front of our card stamped. Now it's time to cut those two slits in the front. I am again going to draw pencil lines, but this time I'm going to do it on the back of our front panel so you don't see them. So on the back of our stamped portion, I will draw my pencil lines that are 3/4 inch in from each edge. So here you can see those 4 pencil lines on the back of our stamped portion. So once again, I'm going to cut along the vertical lines, starting and stopping at the horizontal lines. So basically what we'll end up with is 2 long slits on the front panel of our card. And I don't have to erase these lines because these will be hidden on the inside. So there you can see the 2 slits. Okay, so now before we add our sliding feature, let's add a piece of white cardstock to the center of those slits. This will be where we have our scene. This piece is cut to 4 inches wide by 2 3/4 inches. So you can see how it fits perfectly between those 2 slits. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and do the sliding feature on the inside. I take my piece that is 2 inches by 4 inches and slide it in right along that bottom there. Now we'll flip the card over, and it's time to add those 2 braces to connect it to the bigger piece. So I have these 2 1/2 inch by 4 inch pieces that I'm putting double-sided tape on the back of. I also have the larger piece that is 2 3/4 inches by 4 inches, and I'm meeting it up right against our sliding piece. So those 2 are touching, I've lined them up, and I'm adding our braces so that they adhere those 2 pieces together. Okay, now we have our sliding feature done, and all we need to do is close our card. This time I'm also going to put a piece of tape on the bottom here so that the end is closed. Then I will put our double-sided tape along that 1/2-inch flap that we have sticking out, and we'll take this piece and tuck it in between our sliding function piece and the front of our card. So I'll just close that up, tuck that flap in, and then close the front down. And there we have our card all ready to go. Now it's time to just add our stamping into the center area. Now I am going to use my MISTI stamping tool because I don't want to mess up at this point. And I have it set to the closed position here. And I'm stamping some of these lawn fawn images with Copic-friendly black ink. And then we can go ahead and color them. So I've got my 2 images here. And notice again that my card is closed, so this is the scene that the people will see when they take the card out of the envelope. So I continue to add other little images here to the scene in the closed position. Now once I've done that, we need to create what we want to show when you pull the tab. You could create like more scene to it or change the scene, but I decided to make it so that when you pull the tab, more of a sentiment is showing. And it'll actually be a place where I write my personal sentiment too. So now with the card open, I'm stamping big thanks to you, leaving a spot underneath it to write love Jennifer. So now that all of my stamping is done, I went ahead and did some basic coloring of those images, nothing fancy. Next, I wanted to finish this off with a white frame. You see the white frame around our scene? I created that by using 2 rectangle dies. I'm going to tape them together onto white cardstock and run it through my die cut machine, and that will create a frame. And I picked the frame dies that would perfectly fit around our scene without hindering the functioning of the pull tab. So I die cut 3 of those and glued them together for some dimension so we had a nice raised frame. And I'm putting glue on the back of that and then carefully placing it around our scene, making sure that I can still pull that tab nicely. Okay, so here you can see the completed card. I did stamp pull here on that tab on the side using a lawn fawn stamp set that has lots of interactive sentiments. So I stamped that with light blue ink, and there you have our fun interactive card. And I will write my sentiment there on the left underneath big thanks, but you could write it on the white piece that you pull out to the side. You could also write something on the back of the card if you wanted. I hope you'll give this sliding window card a try. It's a really fast and easy way to make an interactive card. If you're interested in these supplies, they are linked below. In the middle here, I have a couple other interactive card videos that you may like. Thank you for stopping by today. I appreciate the time you spent with me, and I hope to see you again soon.